There's always been something beautiful about a guy that could weaponize every spot on the floor. It takes a level of comfortability and familiarity with the game that's almost romantic. You don't make a habit of graceful finger rolls on accident, or effortless fadeaways by mistake. They're the result of tireless effort funneled into countless hours, and even if you sometimes question the shot selection, you gotta respect the craft. The endless weapons in their repertoire make them impossible to predict. You can't play too close, they'll blow by you. You can't give them space, they'll shoot over you. They're fully formed offensive engines, defensive nightmares that make matchups impossible and schemes obsolete. You can't beat someone who's got all the cards. They always have a counter to your best hand. Still, before anyone could follow in any footsteps, someone had to blaze a trail. Thankfully, there was a Budweiser drinking maniac ready to break the game wide open. A visionary reckless enough to think outside the box, and disciplined enough to turn a concept into a reality. The abstractionist, Larry Bird. There was a lot of things that made Larry Bird special. The nearly unblockable side of the head shot usually grabbed the headlines. The height and unordinary ball skills weren't far behind. And even the relentless competitive fire got its fair share of the limelight. But tying it all together was a creativity so reckless and arrogant it resulted in a highlight tape that looks outrageous to this day. Larry Legend was an innovator in every sense of the word, a bold bucket getter intent on pushing the boundaries of what a good shot was. Don't get us wrong though, it started with the shot. Bird was the first true marksman that you had to fear. Anytime he brought the ball up to the side of his face, you held your breath. There was nothing you could do to alter it, and little you could do to contest it. Really, you just had to hope he missed it, but he never made a habit of it. He could play off that lethal jump shot and high-level quickness, and then capitalize at the rim thanks to that 6'9" frame, as well as some historically underrated touch. Few guys understand the value of the backboard like the hick from the French lick. It isn't easy to cement yourself as an icon in a city overflowing with them, but 3 championships and 3 consecutive MVPs will get the job done. Larry was the first forward to dominate the game since Elgin Baylor, and unlike everyone who came before him, he did it outside in. He forced defenders to accept full-time jobs following him around like an intern on their first day of work, and dismantled game plans with an arsenal with more variation than we had ever seen. Boston reaped the rewards of the first player able to truly weaponize all 3 levels on the court, but they wouldn't develop the same warm and fuzzy feeling towards the next. The perfectionist, Kobe Bryant. Kobe wasn't the free-flowing creative that Bird was. Sure, there were the backboard self-lobs and audacious shots scattered across his career, but Kobe being Bryant didn't do loose. Everything he did was precise, direct, and deliberate. He was the master of the triple threat in a way the game had never seen. A methodical, surgical attacker. He'd survey his matchup and the help defense behind them before making a jarring, explosive move. Whether it was a jab step, pump fake, or rip through, seamlessly transitioned into a relentless drive to the basket. Defenders were caught in a blender the moment LA's favorite son locked onto the rim. If you somehow survived the chess game up top, there was no respite in the post. The moment the man who brought back low tops got the ball down low, the scoreboard operator went ahead and added 2 points to the Lakers. There was no point in waiting. Kobe just had too many options. The fadeaway was alive and well, a graceful ode to the greatness that came before him, and a loving portrait for future generations to admire. Meld that with footwork to execute flawless up fakes and the nuance to shake up his rhythm time and time again. And you get a high post savant that controls the game with his back to the basket just as easily as he did with his shoulders squared to the rim. Even if you guessed right, somehow cutting him off or forcing him to pick up his dribble, Kobe thrived in chaos. He lived for the impossible heaves that deflated defenses and turned the tide of games into an irreversible avalanche. He was the most dangerous man on the floor, a walking paradox of control and unpredictability. Beyond the arc, from 19 feet, or over your best rim protector, it didn't matter. Kobe was an athletic prodigy and a polished assassin rolled into one. No moment was too big, no shot too tough, no defender sound enough. The guy with 2 jerseys in the rafters built a legacy on breaking spirits and silencing crowds. Your effort in the pews would serve you better than your effort on the court against the Mamba. The romanticist, Tracy McGrady. Tracy McGrady didn't approach the game with Kobe's cold, brooding tactics. You're a 6'9" hyper-fluid forward blessed by the basketball gods. You can afford to be a little more relaxed. T-Mac was an unfathomable talent. A lanky hybrid with the handle of a refined floor general and the scoring arsenal of a genetically engineered two-guard. He could shake elite perimeter defenders out of their shoes or rise up over the most athletic wings with ease. A near 7-footer, freezing defenders with a staggering size-up dribble was something you simply couldn't prepare for. You needed to be at least 6'8" to have a chance of bothering him. But if you were that tall in the early 2000s, odds were you had cement bricks for feet. Few had the size, speed, and fluidity to stay in front of McGrady. His game was a frightening revelation that size didn't limit lateral movement or hand-eye coordination. At his peak, McGrady was the best scorer in the game, a walking mismatch who could dice you up off the dribble or torment you with his back to the basket. He drained contested mid-range pull-ups in his sleep, fathered the Hezzy pull-up 3, and built a highlight reel of emphatic dunks and jaw-dropping posters. Team success never followed T-Mac, and if you look through the rosters he played on, it's easy to see why. But that didn't diminish his individual brilliance. An ingenious creator who redefined how to blend ball movement with change of pace. His playstyle inspired a generation of oversized guards and wiry attackers. Ring or no ring, the game isn't the same without Tracy McGrady. The brutalist, Carmelo Anthony. Phone booth scorer is a term thrown around too lightly. Few players truly mastered the art of creating space and getting to their spots without more than a single dribble. Carmelo Anthony was undoubtedly one of them. A tightly packed, explosive bruiser with the finesse to play off his physicality. Melo was one of the most exhausting defensive assignments the game has ever seen. By the end of the night, you'd be battered, beaten, and staring at 30 points hanging over your head. He had just enough quickness to make his jab step lethal, a quick and consistent shot that made pump fakes deadly, and the physicality to dominate at the rim or on the low block. From the elbow to the wing, Melo had spots everywhere on the court. When he got into rhythm, it was game over. Push him, take away his airspace, foul him. It didn't matter. That unique blend of strength and skill rendered every defensive effort futile. Melo lived for the big moments. Whether he was dragging the Knicks to the playoffs or leading Team USA to gold, he thrived when the crowd rose to its feet and the game hung in the balance. That island on the wing had to be a lonely place for defenders, as Melo calmly surveyed the defense. Then before you could react, he'd hit you with a violent jab step into a one-dribble pull-up. It was over before it even started. A New York icon, an Olympic hero, the king of the mid-range jumper left an indelible mark on the game the streets will never forget. The orchestrator, LeBron James. Some people don't like including LeBron in discussions of three-level scores. Occasionally, they'll even conjure up arguments that James never deployed a jumper or couldn't be counted as reliable from deep. Unfortunately, all those arguments are baseless and slanderous. The league's all-time leading scorer has scored from more spots with more consistency than any individual in the history of the game. If he's not a three-level scorer, then no one is. His slashing stands out as his signature approach. Hard to defend a runaway freight train coming straight at you that still has feet nimble enough to go around you, or athleticism explosive enough to literally jump over you. No one creates downhill momentum like the king, but don't let his dominance at the rim overshadow his perimeter growth. There was a time when teams sagged off LeBron, daring him to beat them from the outside, but those years have gone by the wayside, along with flip phones and iPods that accompanied them. The mid-range came along earlier, post fadeaways that boosted his reputation with basketball purists, and stable pull-ups that forced defenders to close space and open up driving lanes. Then as the game changed, something truly horrifying took place. LeBron developed the three-point shot, a real one. It may not have been coupled with the breathtaking evolution of T-Mac's jumper or the inhumanly quick release of Melo's. There's no defending a skilled athletic phenom that shoots 35% from three. Ask anyone unlucky enough to have played in the Eastern Conference from 2005 to 2018. He's not just a scorer, but he puts the ball in the basket as well as anyone in the history of the sport. The Impressionist, Kevin Durant. There's been no shortage of exuberantly talented scorers throughout the history of the league, but only one man was born to put the ball in the basket. Only one athlete had the mix of size, fluidity, and shot making to blend the attributes and styles of all great scorers that came before him. DC's very own Kevin Durant. We used to spend time debating and arguing what position Durant was projected to be. Some saw him as a 2 because of his pinpoint shooting and high-level handle. Others saw him as a 3 or 4 because of his size and ability to invite mismatches with slower defenders. But as the seasons passed by and the scoring titles racked up, we realized it just didn't matter. Put him at the 5 if you wanted. Just get the ball in number 35's hands and get out of the way. We're still not sure if he picked the name Easy Money Sniper or if it just came to him in a dream. But either way, it fits like a glove. There's never been a jumper quite this gorgeous, this effortless, this hitch-free. One motion, a gentle flick of the wrist, 2 or 3 points added to the scoreboard with cold-blooded efficiency. The ambiguously tall, positionless scoring god has the handle of a dynamic creator. He'll hit you with a hezzy into a crossover, or a wide-ranging in and out that reminds you just how long his wingspan is. A historically great mid-range shooter, a lethal three-point shooter, and a tough finisher who compensates for a lack of vertical explosiveness with endless arms and masterful touch. Some scores might remind you of KD, but none of them will ever look this good. The surrealist, Kyrie Irving. The first sub 6'6" player to earn an entry, Kyrie Irving must be in some way otherworldly. We haven't figured out if it's wizardry, telekinesis, or just a really thin string he ties to the ball, but no one should be able to dribble like this. Half behind the backs that make no sense. Rapid in and outs into devastatingly quick crossovers defy reaction times, and spins shouldn't have that much variety. What he does with the ball in his hand is a love letter to the essence of the game, and a condescending warning to anyone brave enough to defend him. You can't hang with this guy. No one can. To capitalize off the greatest handle this game has ever seen, Irving has a jumper that's almost as perfect as it looks, allowing him to rise up and knock it down the moment his matchup gives him extra space. And then of course there's the flair at the rim. There's many stories that surround Irving's inexplicable talent for overcoming angles and adding impossible spins. Some say he grew up on a backboard with holes in it. Others cite his ambidextrous background. We don't know what it is, but we do know that he makes shots at the rim that most professionals wouldn't be bold enough to attempt. And he does it night in and night out. Not everyone can be a 6'9" demigod with an effortless jumper, but a handle that makes all defenders flat-footed and an arsenal of finishes deeper than anything we've ever seen more than makes up for it. In today's league, 3-level scores seem to grow on trees. Luka meanders around the court, calmly searching for his spots before converting them with a steady over-the-head release. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has paired mid-range mastery with slithery finishing, all while adding a more reliable and voluminous three-point shot this season. Jokic and Embiid stand out as revolutionary skilled big men, with the strength, finesse, and touch to dominate the game from every level. Meanwhile, Devin Booker, Jason Tatum, and Anthony Edwards embody the next wave of versatile and robust scorers, ready to keep the tradition alive. The game keeps evolving, and with it, high-powered bucket getters will continue to emerge, testing defensive schemes and pushing the boundaries of what's possible. But the mastery and understanding it takes to be a true 3-level scorer will always remain rare. There's no shortcut to it, no advanced technique that can bypass the countless hours it takes to perfect every level. It's the mark of an undeniable student of the game, a passionate disciple willing to put in the work to understand basketball at its highest level. As the future unfolds, the next generation of scorers will find new ways to leave their mark on the game, building on legacies of those who came before them. But no matter how it looks or where it comes from, one thing will remain the same. We'll always have a respect and admiration for the craft. For the romantics like us, there's nothing quite like it.
What can I say? Mamba out.